right now, and then we'll start the video. This is so annoying. Start the video in, I guess, three, two, one. Hello, this is Jackson. Today I'm going to tell you why you should play Deathloop. Deathloop is basically a game where you play as a guy on an island who is surrounded by enemies, and you have to kill all of the bosses within one day throughout the island in order to end the loop. Because at the end of every day, if you don't do that, you die and restart the same day over again. So it's basically like it's a death loop. um,
Wow, how profound.
um, so it's got some like time travel aspects to it. It's very like mysterious, kind of techy, but there's also like like a magical aspect in a way. Not really, but kind of. Um, But your main goal, as I said, is to kill a certain people throughout the island. You basically have a day, and there's each part of the day, there's four of them. You go to a different part of the island, and you do whatever stuff you need to do there in order to make it so that on the last part of the day, you're in a certain part of the island where you kill the last of the bosses, and then you can complete the game and do some cool stuff. It is a pretty awesome because it sounds like it's awesome, and it is. Okay, so let's start with the story. The story is really good in my opinion. It's one of the better ones in games in general. This is definitely one of those games that's very like they they used the medium properly and told a great story with it because that seems to be a problem sometimes. Um, but no, the story is awesome. It has great mystery to it. I really don't want to say too much about it cuz like it's awesome to unravel yourself and you'll start understanding what's really going on or like all the hidden details as you keep playing and it makes it a really enjoyable experience. Additionally, it is one of those games that has great environmental storytelling and also a bunch of like little hidden secrets all over the place that you can find that really like fleshes out the story and what it's all about, as well as just some side things that are just like random cool stuff. So yeah, overall story is pretty great. Then in tandem with the story, the reason why this is one of my favorite games of all time is this the voice acting. The sound design in general is amazing, and I will also get to that, but the voice acting specifically, genuinely the best in any game I've played. The two voice actors here, let's name drop them because they're amazing. Deathloop voice actors. The two who play the main characters are just like amazing. Uh, Colt Vaughn, the main character, is played by Jason E. Kelly, and the second main character, Juliana Blake, is played by Ozioma Ekaha. Ekaha. Sorry, I don't know how to say that, but I love those two. They do an amazing job on this game. The dialogue is also written very well, so it all sounds very real and natural. It doesn't sound like a lot of games have dialogue that sounds like just kind of like they just wrote it to tell the story, and it's not like they don't think about the dialogue a lot. But in this game, it's expertly written so that it like conveys information and gets done when it needs to, but it also sounds really natural, especially like when you think about the relationships between the characters. It sounds great, and the voice actors like actually nail it. I believe at least one of them won an award at the Game Awards this year that came out. Um, it's pretty great. It's awesome. Um, then also, as I mentioned, the sound design in general is like insane. It's like otherworldly kind of like it has a really like almost alien feel to it that makes you like know, oh yeah, this is some crazy shit that's going on. It's pretty awesome. um I'm trying to think. I feel like there's something I can compare it to, but it's just so good. Like it this game single-handedly made me interested in sound design in game development. It's pretty crazy how cool it is. um yeah, okay, the
What's
next.
the combat gameplay?
Yes, that's where I'm going next. Oh, the combat is so good. It is a first person shooter game, but it's one of those first person shooter games where it's like very well, you can play it different ways. That is another thing I like about it is you get a lot of freedom to do what you want despite the scope of the game being pretty small. Um, Generally you can either like go guns blazing or you can like be stealthy. I usually prefer stealthy, but guns blazing is fun too. Stealthy, you can sneak around, do stuff. You can like set traps. You can complete certain objectives on the map in order to make your like time easier. But also, this game is one of those ones that allows for guns blazing in way of that you have a lot of different movement abilities or just like other kind of things that you can do to like get around really fast, which lets you kind of get that like the only thing I think of when I think of this kind of fast-paced gameplay is ultra kill. You can get that kind of ultra kill like gameplay feel where you're just like running around bashing heads and going crazy. Um, and this game executes on like that decision of what you want to do a lot. Um, there's a bunch of different kinds of weapons. You get different psychic abilities, um, which I won't say any of them, but like you get pretty much like the basic stuff, but they just make the gameplay more interesting. Um, but they keep it really simple. It's not convoluted. You go and you kill the people, and you can figure out how you should do that most efficiently. Um, I would also like to say that the difficulty of the game is really well balanced, in my opinion, because it wasn't like insanely difficult, but also it gives you a good challenge, and you do have to think about what you're doing before you do it. It's awesome. Um, yeah, I feel like there's more I had to say about it. It was good. I mean, it's just like it's a great game. I'd say the highlight is definitely the sound design. It makes it feel like the experience of playing the game is almost ethereal in a way. It's kind of it's interesting. It has a really unique vibe from like every other game I've ever seen, honestly. Um, but then some downsides, real quick. They're both really not that crazy. The first one that again a lot of games fall prey to is having a really slow start. When I first started playing it, I almost didn't come back after my first like quick session because I had a headache and I was just like, this is kind of boring. But I gave it another chance and then fell in love. Um, so it does have a slow start, but that's not that big of an issue. You just have to like deal with it. Um,
I think what's cool about time loop games like this is the fact that you have to stick with the same setting basically throughout the entire game. But
yes,
it's
I
cool
agree.
to see how they still change it up between each loop to keep the
Yes.
game
Oh,
fresh.
that's right. That reminds me of something. The level design. The level design in this game is also a big highlight. As I mentioned, there are four different regions in the game, and you have 4 parts of the day. So you generally try to go to each region one time a day, and when you do the final thing, that's what you have to do. But at every part of the day, each region has different stuff going on. So part of the mystery and like playing the game and actually beating it is not necessarily just being good enough at the combat, but it's also unraveling the mystery of like, oh, where exactly do I go at what time so that I can actually get them all? Because you can't just do whatever. There's only one way to do it. And you have to, as you play through the game, like the story, I guess you would say, is you trying to figure out where you go on each day. And so each region is like designed so that despite it just being the same thing every time, um, the different like enemies or like certain doors will be unlocked at certain times so that you can actually progress through the game. And it's in a way, oh, it reminds me of Metroidvania games. It's almost like a first-person shooter Metroidvania because you have to go back to parts of the game after you learn certain things or you like learn codes or during certain times or after you've unlocked abilities in order to actually progress. It is like strangely Metroidvania like, which is really cool in my opinion. Um, but yeah, this game is awesome. It's just such a cool game. Um, I will say the other thing, which is really funny because it's barely a problem, is that there's not that much content. But again, that's only a problem because the game is so good it leaves you wanting more. Um,
How many hours is it?
I would say I want to say like 10 to 20 Deathloop average playtime. It's a pretty short game, but it's not
Yeah.
like yeah, I want to say like 10 to 20 around there depending on how like fast you do it, probably closer to 20. Um but it packs a punch. There is also interestingly a multiplayer aspect. Um cuz basically one of the characters in the game is one that like hunts you down and will randomly appear, but you can turn on a mode where you just play through the game but it'll make it so that the character that appears to come get you will be controlled by a real person, and they have
Oh,
multiplayer online PvP in that way. I played a little bit of it. It's pretty freaking cool. The only problem with it is that it's just not very expansive. So after doing it a few times, I was kind of just like, okay, that's actually the coolest thing ever, but I don't feel like I'll actually get much out of just continuing to play it. I feel like if they expanded it a bit, maybe. But the idea
really?
itself and the execution, except for just like the lack of stuff to do, is insane. It's so like, oh my god. I feel like the one word I would use to describe this game is awesome because it's just so like they had so many great ideas and they executed on them so well.
Yeah, this is already a really strong premise, and then just add that onto the actual execution.
Yeah. Um yeah, I want to say that's it for why you should play Deathloop. It's genuinely one of my favorite games of all time. I can't recommend it enough. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty sick.
What platform is it on?
Um as far as I know, wait, let me check. Deathloop platforms. I played it on PlayStation. I believe it is ooh, it's on pretty much everything. So that's cool.
That's cool. Yeah,
Yeah, everything but
everybody should give it a
Switch.
try.
Yes. Um, oh yeah, it got nominated for Game of the Year, and it got Best Art Direction and Best Game Direction. Says a lot. It really does feel like a really whole, complete experience. It just feels like it was so well crafted, even though its scope is not as large as some other AAA games. They knew what they wanted to do, and they did it, and it is really, really freaking cool. And
Very.
yeah, okay, now that's it for why you should play Deathloop. Go play it. Bye. Yippee. Okay, that's it.